Hey, Mike Edwards here. I'm here with Artie and Cheesy. We'll come to you in a second here. This is Empowered Until Further Notice, and it's a live stream I'm doing every week with guests. And I get to learn something. I know my guests learn something too. And more importantly, we're sharing it out into the world. And there's something about being live, real, raw, right? No editing, all that kind of stuff. So, something about empowering ourselves, which is kind of coincidental because today's topic is about empowerment, and we'll come to that in a sec. But first, Artie, Cheesy, why don't you introduce yourselves?
Hey, Mike. Hi, everyone. My name is Ardita Karai. I'm an Agile coach. I work with teams and leaders that are looking to actually move forward and not be happy with where they are, but continuously trying to find better ways and new ways of not only doing their work, but also innovating and creating and, build things that they love, their customers love, and create a better world.
Awesome.
And I'm Cheesy. Some people do know me as Jeff Morgan, but most people know me as Cheesy.
Sorry, Jeff Morgan? Who's that?
Yeah, who's that? And I'm also an Agile coach, been doing it for a very, very long time. My passion is around continuous delivery, which a lot of folks think of as a very technical practice, very DevOpsy and such. But the way that I believe that it should work and the way that I coach it, it's very much about product. It's about experimenting. It's about rapid, small little changes and learning from the customer, learning how the customer actually interacts or uses the software itself. And of course, there's a lot of technical aspects in order to be able to facilitate that process. So,
awesome. Thank you. And I have to say, in terms of technical people, who I'm not the most technical, I understand it, but not that to the same level. You're one of the first people who I listen to talk about technology, and it's like, oh, I get this.
Simple words.
Very good.
Probably what I need for sure. Okay, so let's get into this topic for today. And for everybody who might be watching as we're going, if anybody joins us, if you've got questions, thoughts, comments, please put them into the comments and we'll pull them up and we'll talk about them with you.
Yeah.
So when I invite guests on to here, the one thing I ask them is what has their interest right now? And Artie and Cheesy, what they responded with was this: even the CEOs have limited empowerment. This will hit hard on the belief that, they're powerful. They can do anything they want, right? Like we look at CEOs or C-suite people or whatever level, and we think, nah, they don't need empowerment. They just get to do what they want. This kind of expectation from senior leaders is not empathetic or realistic. There are always limitations to empowerment. It can be from within the organization's forces, dynamics, or culture, or from outside, like regulatory, government, or market. If empowerment means you can do anything you want, then nobody's empowered. And that last statement really caught me because it's so true, right? That's not empowerment if everybody gets to do what they want. So before we dive in here, let's talk about this word, empowerment. Everybody talks about it. Everybody throws it around. It's in the title of this live stream. What does empowerment mean to you?
Why don't you start?
Why don't you start?
I'm empowering you.
It's not the easiest word to define, because when we start to think about it, we start to think that, somebody has to empower you for you to be empowered, right? But, or at least that's one of the ideas that's out there, although sometimes folks might feel empowered without, actually doing that and overstep. So it's a really, really complex term to try to nail down, because each time you look at it from a different direction, you can come up with a different feeling about it. For for me, and well, then we also have this the idea of a sense of empowerment as well. So which is something a little bit different. When I think about empowerment, though, I really think that there is sort of a permission side of it to a certain degree, in that the collective whoever that would be has decided that one person should have freedom to perform something that they have agreed on, or should have some sort of freedom to move in a way that the group has agreed, and as a group has exhibited trust in that person to do that. And that sort of is the empowerment piece of it.
Yeah, I want to add on that even some other elements, because it's not just about giving to someone the gun in the hand, or what is it, the baton, right? Probably the better word. It's also, empowerment also means someone that has the right knowledge, has the right training, and has the right authority to make the decisions, right? And I don't want to leave it only like, oh, anyone can make a decision just because they have that certain level. They also need the knowledge and the training, because without these two, you're not going to make good decisions. And there's not, I don't think there's an empowerment. There's just giving to someone the rights to push a button.
Yes, exactly. You're making me think of David Marquette's book, Turn Your Ship Around.
Yes.
There he tells the story about loading torpedoes. Do you remember that one?
Yes.
And he didn't use the word empowerment, but essentially that's what he was doing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I trust you to get this job done. And they dropped a torpedo.
Yeah, you know the information. You have it all. Why are you coming to me? I don't have your knowledge. I don't have your calculations. Why are you coming to me? Yeah, this is the goal that we're trying to achieve. You can do it now. Yeah.
I love what you both said. In terms of the perspectives of what empowerment is, and the big one that comes up for me is permission.
Yeah.
Right. And there's self-permission, permission from my team, permission from my boss, permission from regulators, so on and so forth. Right. But that's not the same thing as I can do whatever I want.
No.
That's right. And whenever we think about that in the context of the title, where we're talking about CEOs or let's say very senior people within an organization, it's a little bit different. I mean, whenever you talked about David Marquette's book, it was the leader empowering the people under.
Good point.
Empowering the folks who load the torpedoes, right? Which is a little bit different. But when we talk about an executive or a very senior leader being empowered, do they just inherit that? Are they empowered to do anything? Back to what we talked about, there is sort of that permission, there is sort of that trust, but do they actually take the step to go or to go and get that permission? Is that a necessary thing? And maybe that's something interesting to explore.
So it's about actioning. Do they have the action? Are they action driven? Or courage to actually do something on that position?
Well, and I think there could be a difference between being action-driven and being empowered to take action.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Most people at the more senior levels, and thank you for bringing us back there, Cheesy, most people I know are at the senior levels are fairly action-driven. Right? Yeah. And I think that can give an illusion that they can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
And yet that's not true.
Or that they should be able to do whatever they want. Some of them might have that view, but
well, that could be. That's a whole different problem. Yeah, a couple CEO friends of mine, one of them CEO, one's in the C-suite, and both of them talk about this, and they absolutely do not have a blank check to do whatever they want.
Yeah.
One of them has worked in fairly large publicly traded companies,
Yeah.
and they're not empowered to do whatever they want because they have a responsibility to their shareholders, for one, to the
Yeah.
board, to the regulators, to whoever.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Reminds me, it's a YouTube video that I've watched a long time ago, and we're talking when Hillary Clinton was a corporate lawyer, right? Like she was not in politics so deep, and she said that at that time there was a survey that was done to the most powerful CEOs of United States, and they were asked, if we were given a lot of money, let's say a large amount of money, to train people so that in 5 or 10 years they would be, in a higher level positions and more professional and more trained, would you use that money to create, training and take them to better places where they can learn more? And it was like 100%. They said no. And she said, I was shocked. She said, because I know that some of them are actually CEOs that do care about their people and do want to do that. So she said, I picked one of them and I said, listen, I know that everyone said no, and which means even you said no. So why did you say that? And he said, it is because the shareholders will kill me, will eat me alive, because the shareholders are driving that short term money making, while the training is a long term thing. So even though he's a CEO and he would like to do the long term, he would be eaten alive by the shareholders, and he has to play now that game of, well, how much can go for long term and how much for short term. So that is a story that has always stuck with me, because every time we think, oh, see, the CEOs, or I don't know, the senior directors or the VPs, they are not making a decision, the right decision. Well, the thing is that they are also limited, and without understanding their limitations, their boundaries, what is given to them, they probably did the best that they could,
Yes.
right? And yet is not what people probably in their teams expected or wanted to see. And without understanding all these boundaries, all the limitations, we are going to work without empathy. We are going to meet with these leaders without actually putting that, hey, he did the best or she did the best.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is something that we need to bring more in our offices, in our teams, because we always blame someone higher up.
Oh, that's always easy. And a
Yeah.
lot of times, the higher ups may not even be visible.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's even easier to blame someone you can't even see.
Yes.
Mhm.
No direct connection with.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you see the impact of this as?
Do you want to go?
No, it's your story.
I think the impact is the impact of knowing that
A lack of empathy.
the
right?
lack of empathy.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I should have been clear there.
Yeah.
So the CEO's doing their thing, and we think, what are they doing? Like, they can do whatever they want. Why on earth would they make that decision? Lack of empathy, understanding.
I think the problem there would be that there isn't not an understanding of how the business actually runs, or there's no, I want to use the word transparency, but word transparency these days has a lot of meaning, and I'm trying to be careful what the word I use, but it's about having everyone understand how we make decisions, up to what level decisions are made, what are our boundaries as an organization, and even within these boundaries, what was the best option in our hands to consider. Business, people, customers, right? You have a lot to consider in place. When you are in a leadership role, you don't have just like small decisions, you have large ones to look at. And are we looking at all of them? Are we considering all of them? Is this going to help our organization to do the best, to be stronger in the future? So the more we talk about that and the more these leaders explain their boundaries and what is required by them, the more I think in a certain way they empower their teams and their people to now understand even where we are located in this big world, right? It's the continent, it's the state, it's the city, it's the neighborhood. Well, where are we, and how are we seeing the powers around us?
Yeah, it's the you're empowering your people to actually help you.
Yeah.
By giving them information.
Yeah,
I think that's a really important point that you just made, empowering your people, because again, going back to the idea that I already shared, where the executive isn't always empowered to make all of these decisions, and even in some cases being beholden to Wall Street, for example, or whatever it might be. That only continues to reinforce so much of what we've heard, which is that at that level, if you're making tactical decisions at that level, then we've got a huge problem. At that C level, big ideas, directional things, not details. And back to what you just said a moment ago, Mike, it's really about then having the right group or the right team around you, and then as the leader, empowering them to make the decisions. And that means trusting them as well. So we're back to that trust word again. So.
Yeah, funny how that always sneaks in. Yeah, it kind of comes across like it's a cyclical thing. I'm going to empower you with information so you can help empower me to make better decisions.
Yeah.
So the CEO is empowered to empower his direct reports.
Exactly. I'm thinking of a story I read. This was sometime near the beginning of the pandemic. Dan Price, Gravity Payments. I got the right company name, I think. He's the guy that said, I'm going to reduce my pay to $75,000.
Oh, yeah.
And make it equitable or equal throughout the company. And at the beginning of the pandemic, of course, he was faced with potentially having to lay people off. That would be a normal kind of decision that you would expect to see. What he did instead was meet with every single person, 20 at a time. Every single person in the organization, empowered them with information so they could empower his decision. In the end, I can't remember the numbers. Everybody took a slight pay cut, let's say 10%, and nobody lost their job.
Yeah. It's another story that I read from Reinventing Organization. Is a company where it was a newspaper. They were in the same position. And instead of the leader there deciding, okay, this many people need to be let go, he put it out there and he said to people, listen, this is the number that we need to save. What are the ways that you can think of about saving? And a lot of good ideas came up. He said, I don't want to fire because I treat everyone like family. But this is, if for us to stay in business, these are the numbers we need to meet. And they came up with okay, we can take off vacations because vacations, count. Or we can, some people that had more vacation gave some vacation to some others. And they figured out a way to change their times so they still kept the job and made those targets that they needed to do. So yeah, it's a similar story to
Yeah. And I think there is a lot of really good ones out there. But it comes with that transparency you talk about.
Yeah.
Right? From the top down, here's my boundaries. I don't get to just do whatever I want.
Doesn't that sound vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
How many people do you know? How many leaders that got at the top do you know that are able to actually say, hey, we are in trouble and I need your help?
Yeah. Not as many as I would like.
Yeah.
I do know some, but not as many as I would like.
Yeah. I think that's probably they are seen as empowered and they can do anything.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a cultural thing where it's like knowledge is power, or like I don't know what the cultural bias is exactly, but knowledge is power and power is important, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But we need to start breaking it down.
Knowledge is good. I don't know if it's power, because you have a lot of knowledge and you still might not be able to do with anything with it.
I totally agree. No, I'm talking about the type of culture where
Yeah.
people hoard knowledge because it gives them power.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Keeps them in the job.
Yeah.
And I have seen those people being moved away or let go or retire, and the company kept going,
Yes.
The company
What?
didn't fall apart.
Yeah, funny how that is. Yeah. So let's go to boundaries.
Yeah.
Right? We're talking about empowerment that have boundaries. And let's go back to the C level, like go back to the top of organizations here. What do we see as being important about the boundaries? Like, how does that make empowerment truly empowerment? Because earlier we said without boundaries, it's not empowerment.
Yeah.
So what about the boundaries truly makes it empowerment?
Do you want to take this?
Go ahead.
Oh, really?
My mind took me in a different place, but go ahead.
Okay, let's go to that place. Maybe it's good.
Yeah.
So, if you don't feel there are boundaries, then you kind of are in that position that I mentioned during the introduction, which is that you take that this for granted. That you assume that automatically I have no boundaries, so my empowerment is complete. Or whatever it might be, and that's where you end up with more of an authoritative type leader, right?
Right.
And so the boundaries are there. So that's where my mind went initially. So what do the boundaries provide? Well, the boundaries kind of provide order, I guess, to a certain degree. The boundaries also create the need for permission that we talked about.
Yes.
And so which automatically means it creates the space for discussion, the space for communication, right? And so whenever I think about those boundaries, I think that they serve a very, very good role from that perspective. If you have somebody who doesn't have boundaries, then all of a sudden we have chaos. We have the potential for chaos. We have somebody who is able to run over top of everybody else. And it doesn't create that spirit of working together and so on. And if that person empowers those under him, then or their reports, they'll have difficulty believing it as well, because so you've empowered me, but you are all powerful. How do I feel confident, or how do I feel comfortable? I don't have that safety that I might need. Because you are all powerful. You say you've empowered me, but since you have no boundaries, what's to say that you won't come in and just run over whatever it is that you've empowered me to do?
That might be pretty key there. Psychological safety has been a big discussion in the agile space the three of us play in. And I think what you're pointing to is without boundaries, you can't have psychological safety.
Yeah. In my world, I understand where my team that I'm working with has hit boundaries when they start saying we need to escalate this. The word escalation,
yes,
for me this is how far we can go, and this is outside of our knowledge or decision making, or we cannot do this. And imagine if nobody wants to escalate anything, right? Imagine if everybody can make any decision anytime. First is chaos, but it might be also you are stepping into someone else's code base, or you are breaking a decision with a client that someone else is working, and you are now changing that perspective with that client. So you already are confusing the client. So it creates that chaos either in business or in technology, right? It doesn't matter where.
Yeah.
So,
but then too much of it, hold on that thought, but that too much of it, it also gives the feeling that if you only escalate to one level and only one person is the almighty and can make all those decisions, then he or she becomes the bottleneck of the whole organization, because now everybody is waiting for that person to your point, right? You hold the power, you hold the knowledge, and then you think that you are the most important, but you are also the bottleneck. And we all know that bottlenecks are not, we don't want a lot of them.
No, of course not. And as you were saying it, I was thinking there's one boundary from a senior level, is a boundary we don't often talk about, which is I don't want decisions and escalations to come to me more than needed.
Yeah.
Right? Like if a leader does not put that boundary there, then they are making all the decisions, and it's going to break down safety, because people will think, well, he or she has to make all the decisions.
Yes.
Plus, they're going to be so busy.
A leader that is asked to be in every meeting, that is asked to approve every PowerPoint deck, that is asked to approve every email. Yeah, that's a sign that you have not empowered people around you, and you have become that bottleneck.
I think there might be a flip side to this as well, where I have run into numerous cases where there maybe are imaginary boundaries, and you start to see what impact that has on empowerment. For example, old institutions, there are in some cases these ideas around, well, this is the way that we work, or this is the way that things happen here, and even though there may not be any real boundary there at all, it's kind of a perceived boundary. And yet you see leaders who kind of step into and conform to some of those imaginary boundaries, and therefore won't take the risk of stepping outside of that. And so now they're limiting, the empowerment that they might have, or the ability to empower other people to experiment or to learn or to grow, because they've got this imaginary bubble that they want to try to force everything to work within.
So is that a culture limitation?
It could be. Right? It's like the world's biggest excuse for not changing, not doing things. Well, that's the way it's always been around here.
Yeah.
We always use IBM. We always do this. We always do that, so.
Yeah.
Oh, I hope IBM's not a sponsor here, but I didn't mention some other companies.
Yeah. Cool.
But
so we're coming up on our 30 minutes here. So, what are your closing thoughts here? What do you want people to take away from this when it comes to empowerment at that senior level?
Well, personally, I want people to be more empathetic with these leadership roles. Don't look at them as, they can hire, they can fire, they have that invisible gun and they can do anything they want. It is not like that. I don't think we need to see them as people that have all the power to do anything they want. I believe they also have limitations. And if we approach to the decisions that are made with empathy and with curiosity, and we ask, why was this decision better than something else? We should expect a more transparent and a more informative answer that actually explains why, explains to everyone these are the limitations. I think one of the best examples that I have of the CEOs that I have seen myself were when they came and they explained, these are the margins that we're playing with. These are the people that we have. I don't want to lose people. These are the decisions that we're making in order to stay strong in the market. And people actually understood that. And then that empowered them to understand, what can I do on my role, whatever that role is, to do the best, because this is what I see and this is what I believe now where we are as an organization.
Awesome.
And I'll pick up where she left off, in that if there is a CEO or an executive listening, hello. Leadership is really not about ordering people around. It's really not about showing how much authority you have. Although unfortunately we see too much of that. Whenever I think about this specific topic, I go back to some of the best leaders that I've ever worked with throughout my career. And what was one common thread that I see throughout their actions and their behaviors, it really is that even though they might be very empowered, in their role and in their executive level, or what they end up doing is they end up empowering all of those around them, and back to what Ardita said a moment ago, maybe they set that vision, maybe they bring the top level numbers, maybe they talk about, hey, here's a number we have to hit, or we've got to reduce by this amount. But the people that report to them are so in tune with them and have that safety that they feel empowered to help bring the solutions and to drive the solutions. And then it goes down the next level as well. And when you have an empowered organization, you have an organization where everybody understands the vision up and down the hierarchy. You have and everybody feels like they have a place in solving those problems or those challenges that might be there, or in striving toward those goals. And so there is an organization that's going to continue to grow, an organization that's going to continue to attract great talent, an organization that will very likely succeed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's hard for me to add to what you two said. But I will say this, with a lot of executives that I work with, there's this thing out there that, well, being an executive is really a lonely place to be.
Yeah.
And I believe it's true.
Yeah.
And at the same time, through empowerment, through opening up this, through the empathy from bottom up, you can start to change that. And so what I would encourage people, if you're not at the executive level, you're at another level of the organization, just simply having some empathy and saying, how can I help? How can I help solve problems? Please share, because I want to help, right? Could really have a huge impact on what happens.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, as we bring this to a close, how can people get a hold of you? Where can they find you?
I think we are everywhere. LinkedIn, Twitter.
That would be true.
I don't know, Facebook, everywhere. It seems like the world has become, it's funny how I used to use Facebook only for, family. And now I have friends that I've met through my agile circles or that I worked with, and they have become part of my Facebook. So it's kind of like everything is growing and everything is opening up, even with people that want to meet. So, yeah.
So I will say, Artie and I live in downtown Toronto.
Yeah.
So anyone in the neighborhood, send us a message and let's grab a coffee and chat. Yeah. And because of the pandemic, we've all become very virtual, so there are numerous ways to get a hold of us. Emails. We both work for Industrial Logic Canada. And so you can find us online.
Cheesy at industriallogic.ca or Ardita at industriallogic.ca.
And we'd love to talk to you. Look us up. And we love to drink coffee.
Yeah. Do you know a good place to get coffee?
I know a couple of places, yes.
Awesome. I will certainly be taking you up on that soon. Yeah. So thank you both for being here. This was really good. I loved the discussion. And for everybody else, if you got any questions, put them in the comments, and we'll get notified, of course, and one of us will respond to you.
Yeah. And Mike, thank you for inviting us in your show.
Yes.
You have such a good crowd here, and have to be part of it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, coming up next week on Wednesday, July 20th at 11 a.m. Eastern, I have a friend of mine, Lisa Dare, also a leadership coach. Don't know what the topic is yet, but I know, like all of these, it's going to be a good one. So please check it out. Watch on social media for the notifications, and we'll see you then. Until then, have a great week.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.